You'll always come across that one moment in a series when speaking about anime and manga, usually when a battle shonen is concerned. It revolves around a fight that either pits its main character against their rival or even a fan favorite or underrated side character going up against an antagonist built up as a genuine threat. Something that continually changes how the series will continue moving forward in the future. And battles that not only challenge the characters involved physically but mentally as well, putting their ideals at the forefront. Moments like Ichigo versus Byakuya, Rock Lee versus Gaara, Kenshin versus Shishio, or even Gentoki versus Takasugi perfectly embodied these moments as far as examples are concerned. But I'm not here to talk about those series. I'm here to talk about My Hero Academia. MHA's manga has been heating up lately as we inch ever so closer to its finale. It's hard to remember a time when we weren't caught up in between a life or death battle where stakes are at an all-time high. So today let's rewind to a simpler time when Deku only had one quirk and the secrets of One for All and All for One were still secret. A time before Shigaraki made Hero Society crumble before his fingers. Let's go back to Deku vs Bakugo. Chapter 119 of My Hero Academia, or Few Anime Onlys, episode 61, to me is the greatest moment in the series, and it centers around its two main characters, Izuku Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo, as they have their fated rematch. A rematch of a battle that took place back in chapter 9. It took us a total of 108 chapters to reach this point, and the timing couldn't be better. Deku vs Kacchan 2 is one of my favorite moments in all of My Hero Academia. It does so much for Izuku and Bakugo that I can't help but admire the attention to detail within its storytelling. But before we break it down, if you're new to the channel and you like this kind of analytical content on anime, manga, video games, and all things pop culture, then subscribe. I want to get to 20k by the end of the year, and every bit of support helps. And with that out of the way, let's get back into today's video. This fight takes place after the whole Bakugo rescue mission and All Might's rematch with All for One, so tensions are incredibly high right now in the manga, and Horikoshi isn't slowing things down as Bakugo confronts Izuku as he proposes the two speak about his quirk. Now, Deku's quirk nowadays is no secret, the world knows, but this here was game changing and it creates anxiety in its wake. It also says a lot about Bakugo's character, and we'll get to that later. I do love the symbolism of this chapter as it calls back to the fact that Deku is still following Bakugo. It's fitting that it's called Kacchan vs Deku Part 2 because it has a lot of callbacks and references to that first battle. Bakugo brings Deku back to the place where it first began during their training exam when they first joined UA. He admits that ever since that day he hasn't felt good about losing to Deku. Bakugo harkens back to something Deku had told him after their first fight. His quirk was given to him and he's on a mission to make it his own. Putting two and two together, he concludes that his quirk was given to him by All Might. It shows how sharp of a character Bakugo has become. During this fight, in many ways, he's learned a lot and he's put that into practice, many things that Deku himself has been known for. I'd say they swap places character-wise to an extent. Deku is the one who's always analyzing and observing the people and things around him. The world, actions, and abilities are all something he takes into account. He has an entire notebook filled with this stuff. It's the reason why he was able to beat Bakugo the first time. He studied his movements and analyzed his fighting style and his mindset. Bakugo now is in that position, and it starts when he figures out Deku's quirk, and it continues throughout this entire confrontation. On that note, the reason for this fight is quite telling for Bakugo. We as the audience get a good look at his character from an external point of view. Bakugo is insecure and he needs to fight Deku to find his answers, to quell his insecurities. Now, we already could conclude that Bakugo is an insecure person and his anger and cockiness are overcompensations to mask that insecurity, but it's good for it to be finally put on full display in typical shonen fashion. There's a lot of maturity despite that, at least when it comes to his combat knowledge. Bakugo, similar to Deku in their first fight, exploits one of Deku's weaknesses, his habit of overthinking. Bakugo gets in the first blow. Deku is on the defensive, he doesn't want to fight Bakugo and he'd rather just talk it out. This is until Bakugo shows a vulnerable side, shedding tears and blaming himself for All Might's injuries during the Kamino event. That is what springs Deku into action, but before he does, a second is taken to analyze the situation once more through Deku's eyes. I love this because it shows Deku's respect for Bakugo and his feelings. This fight is pointless, there's no reason, regardless of winner or loser, but at this moment in time, fighting is the only thing Deku can do. He says it better than I could. He is the one who could understand Bakugo's feelings as he is so intrinsically tied to All Might and the future of the series going forward. This is the only way these two can communicate their feelings, not through words, but through blows. We get a taste of Bakugo as a fighter, despite the series painting Deku as the objective stronger combatant. He can't outmaneuver Bakugo. Having fought Deku before, Bakugo can react to every counterattack, effectively rendering whatever Deku does useless. This relentless onslaught of attacks is complemented by the dialogue between the two. Despite Bakugo's relentless bullying of Deku throughout the years, he kept his eyes glued to him. This makes Bakugo feel like he's being looked down upon, and he admits this fact to Deku outright. Simply put, the reason for Deku's consistent gaze is that he admires Bakugo's strength. In his own words, All Might was someone he could admire from a distance, but Katsuki Bakugo was someone right in front of him, someone he could tangibly chase. The artwork in these chapters is phenomenal, and it shows how strong and of an artist Kohei Horikoshi is. His artwork at the time reminds me of Kubo, so unique and heavily detailed. The way he draws fights and designs characters deserves to be praised. The raw emotion that this fight entails is breathtaking. For a moment, Deku becomes overconfident. He underestimates Bakugo, just like Bakugo did him when they first fought all those chapters ago. Deku again, in similar fashion, goes for a punch that could end this bout, but he forgot that his opponent is Katsuki Bakugo, as he tanks that punch, using it as an advantage as he grabs Deku's arm, sending him to the floor. Again, just like Deku did to him in the first battle, as All Might enters the fray, breaking up these two boys before it gets worse. All Might recontextualizes the rivalry between the two, admitting that both Bakugo and Deku share aspects of himself, aspects that made him the hero he is today. Put this battle up against its Chapter 9 counterpart and you not only see progression through the lens of its main character, but the story as a whole. So much has changed from My Hero Academia's humble beginnings, and it's put on display here. The story is coming into its own and the future looks bright. Moments like these remind me of why I enjoy My Hero so much. These were some of Horikoshi's strongest moments as a writer among others. Moments like these stand at the top for me. It's among some of my favorite moments in the series. Others I can point to is Deku's fight with Gentleman Criminal, Gentleman being one of my favorite characters in the series, and an underrated arc that a lot of people hated when it got adapted into the anime, but the latest joint training exercise, which I think did so many good things for all of the characters involved that maybe one day I'll make a video praising it and going through why I think that it's overly hated. But that's really all I had to say about My Hero Academia. It's not the first time I spoke about the series though. I did another video a few years back and it's quite old now, but I do enjoy the work I, put into it. If you liked anything I had to say though, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, and let's talk about My Hero in the comments. What's your favorite moment? What's your favorite character? How do you feel about the manga overall? How do you feel about the current arc? And if you want to support this channel a step further, consider becoming a channel member or joining our Patreon. Or if you want to just get some sweet anime merch, then take advantage of my link down below and get 10% off your first order at Boomslang. Regardless, this has been Grimtoki, this is Beyond Animation. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.